How's it going, Marks? It's Jay. This is a midweek checkup of everything in professional wrestling, and unfortunately, we have the sad news to start out the week or the middle of the week. Terry Funk, wrestling legend, wrestling icon, has passed away. He was 79 years old. He wrestled for about 50 years. His first match was, I think it was 1965. And he continued to wrestle, up until I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago. And he just had too many health problems that just were piling up. But the Funker had been dealing with some health issues over the last several years. He had dementia. He was dealing with just the brutality of what he had done for a living for all that time. And, he had an incredible career. Not too many people could put their career up against his. And just the sheer magnitude of the things he did in and outside the ring. You're talking about a man who won the NWA Heavyweight Championship in 1975. That's 10 years after his debut. And then another 22 years later, he wins the ECW Heavyweight Championship on their first pay per view, Barely Legal. I mean, Paul Heyman brought that man in specifically to bring credibility to that brand, to take that brand to the next level. And you're talking about a dude who he ended up picking a thing that he was like, nobody else my age would do it. And he ended up, learning how to do a moonsault and was wrestling these absolutely insane matches when, he's in his 50s and continued to do those sort of matches for another 15 or so years. It's just absolutely crazy to me. And, he didn't always do that sort of match. He didn't always project that. But I remember like he had done some movies in Hollywood. I remember him in the movie Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone in the mid 80s. And he had gone to do that for a little while. And he came back to NWA and ended up feuding with Ric Flair and had like a couple of really classic matches and it ended up leading to the Thunderdome match with he and Great Muta going against Sting and Ric Flair. And it was one of the hottest things ever. But I remember that Great American Bash, though, where he and Flair had a one-on-one, if I'm remembering right, I Quit match. And nobody in the right mind would have thought Ric Flair would quit at the time. Nobody in their right mind would have thought Terry Funk would quit at the time. And it was one of those just, I don't know, for me at my age at that time, it was a match that I had not seen anything like that. And I had always known Terry Funk as the dude from WWF. And, he didn't get booked that great. They always talked him up like he was this big thing. But for the most part, he was on the losing side of things. So I didn't get that feeling of how great he was until I saw him with Flair in 1989. And they just had some classic matches, like really, I think, was the birth of some of these hardcore matches that they ended up having later on in ECW, which, Terry Funk was the king of. And, Mick Foley ended up, he and Foley latched on to each other. Foley was a big fan of Terry Funk, and they really created some magic. But it's tough to really give a full glimpse and awareness of what Terry Funk did and meant to the wrestling industry. He just always fought fought for his career, fought for doing the right thing. I remember on, I think it was the Jeremy Borash Forever Hardcore DVD, where Funk specifically didn't do the first one night stand because, he didn't feel it had the true nature of what ECW was. And he didn't want to bastardize what ECW was. And then a year later, he ended up coming back, and doing stuff for WWF. And he came in and did his thing. Brainless One was convinced that we were going to see the death of one Terry Funk on that one night stand in 2006. It didn't happen, thankfully, but it's just a bummer that Terry Funk has passed away, a guy that I remember fondly from my childhood. So that's that. And I did not originally want to, chat. This was not part of the plan when I was planning on doing this live stream today. But since Terry Funk passed away, definitely got to give the man his props for all he did in the industry. All right, shifting gears though. So I just want to talk briefly about the Rated R superstar Edge. So Edge possibly wrestled his last match for WWE last Friday against Sheamus. Edge said that this is contractually the last match that he needs to wrestle for the company. And, my brain was stirring and thinking that, hey, maybe Edge ends up showing up at All In. This is a big deal. And, having a stadium chock full of fans, and you have a surprise like that. Turns out he did wrestle his last contracted match, but his current contract actually runs out in late September, and that is according to Edge. He did do a radio interview, I believe it was, before SmackDown last Friday. The thing is about this that I find interesting is Ed sounded like he wanted to re-sign with the company, ready, willing, and able. And the company didn't re-sign him. And this feels like a continuing process with Edge and with Drew McIntyre and with other people who I'm sure the company does want to re-sign, but this is my belief, the Endeavor deal right now is holding up big deals like this. I think if it was somebody who is not as expensive and not as big of a star, they may sign those people to the company and keep them around. But when you got somebody like Drew McIntyre, you got somebody like Edge, you got to cough up some money. And I'm sure the new owners of the company don't want to sit there and increase, the amount of money they got to pay out. But you know what? If you want quality performers, you got to pay them. And Edge has been extremely loyal to the WWE since 1998. He has been a WWE guy. And it feels at this moment that the next time we see Edge is going to be as Adam Copeland in AEW. AEW doesn't have the restrictions WWE is dealing with at the moment. They don't have a merger going on. Tony Khan is the man who, owns the company. He's got a whole bunch of money coming in from his TV rights deals. He's got, almost a sold out All In event with 85,000 tickets. He's doing all right. He will pay Edge if he thinks he could get him in. Edge's best friend is in the company. You got Christian Cage over there. We have not seen them operate together as a team in a few years. I'd love to see them have one more run. I think it'd be great. And if it ends up being in AEW, so be it. I don't think Edge is going to end his career in AEW. I think, this is my belief, he is going to go away to AEW for, you know, maybe a year and finish his career off correctly in WWE and come home. Because at that point, the Endeavor deal will be closed and the company, the newly constituted company will understand what they are, what they have, and know the money that they should and shouldn't spend. And bringing Edge back for one last true run instead of having a rushed, like, oh, yep, this is Edge's last match. I think they know better than to do that. That otherwise, that would be a kind of crappy way to finish off a career for somebody who's been such a good soldier for you and done a lot of good for the company for a long time. But all that being said, I mean, think about it, Edge's career. We thought it ended all those years ago after he defeated Alberto Del Rio at WrestleMania and retained the heavyweight championship in 2011. Think he's done. He comes back 9 years later and really had a lot of really good matches, really good storylines. The only fumble, in my view, really was they should have kept the stuff with the Judgment Day. He should have stayed in that group longer than he did. You have a group like that, a faction, and you're undefeated, and you've only been going for a couple of months, and you end up kicking out the leader, who's a Hall of Famer, and you're undefeated with. I mean, it was about the silliest booking decision they've done in a while. That is the only bump in the road, at least in my view, since Edge returned. I think they did really solid storylines with him. But all that being said, I was touching on Tony Khan and AEW. They're getting really close to selling out Wembley Stadium. They have surpassed what WWE did at 1992 SummerSlam, and they surpassed the amount of tickets sold that WWE had at WrestleMania 32. So they have the largest paid attendance for a wrestling event in history, because as much as they say for WrestleMania 3, there were 93,000 people there. Some of the investigating as far as ticket sales sounds like it was more like 78,000. So, but all that being said, big kudos to AEW. And as much as I have problems with some of their storytelling, some of their booking, that just shows you in England the health of the AEW brand. Same note this week, WrestleMania 40 has sold in excess of 90,000 tickets, and they've already broke the record for gate as far as WrestleMania goes. As far as any of their gates have gone, they have broken the record already. So as much as people like to bitch and moan and gripe about things going on in the squared circle, the storylines, clearly the brands are very strong and the people identify with them. And if they didn't like what they saw, they wouldn't show up. So you've got over 80,000 tickets sold for All In. That event is this weekend. Brainless One and I are going to do our podcast this Friday. We're going to have our picks and previews for that show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on our channel and make sure you tune in. We'll be live on the Facebook page. I'm going to try to get it to also be live on the YouTube page this Friday, 6:30 Eastern Time. But we'll have our predictions then. But I think just hearing, 170,000 tickets for 2 wrestling shows is just incredible, unfathomable. But there's a lot of really good things going on, and they far outweigh the bad. And I'm looking forward to All In, and I think that the fact that WrestleMania sold 90,000 tickets and we have no idea what the heck the card is going to be. Again, nothing but good things. That just shows the strength of what they've been doing. But so that's it for this week. And I'm going to try to do these every Wednesday. So make sure you do tune in to our YouTube channel at the FNMARKS, the FN Marks. And make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and tune in when we do our podcasts live on Friday, me and the brainless one. And, we'll chat with you then. Thanks for tuning in tonight, and I'll catch you later.